Oh no. Awesome.
Yes, totally. That one has part over. That's the part of like really. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Corinne, are you still there? Okay, I have to quit out of my Zoom really fast and reopen it up because it's giving me a pinwheel of death, which means I can't share my screen. I also can't click into the chat, so I'll be right back. Does that look right, Corinne? I'm going to assume you said yes because I still have the pinwheel of death, but at least it's showing my screen.
Can you hear me, Bethany?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that looks great.
Okay, cool. I don't know why it keeps doing this. I've reset my Zoom multiple times.
Okay.
But I can, as long as I get it up, I'm good to go. I just can't see the chat.
Okay, well, I'll be here for the entire time, so I'll just monitor
Okay.
and let people in. So you'll just have to just present. And if I see anything that people have questions, I'll let you know.
Okay, I'm gonna go grab my coffee that I left on my counter.
Go do that. Mhm.
Okay, guys, it is 9 a.m. And so let's get started. Okay, we have one in the classroom and one on Zoom. Is that what I'm right? Okay. I'm Bethany. Bethany Olson. I've been a part of our Mid-Willamette Market Center for the last, I don't know, 3-4 years. I've been in real estate, selling on my own for 9 years. I have a small husband-wife team with my husband. And I have 3 kids. I recently, 2 weeks ago, broke my elbow, my right elbow in my left hip. So I'm only over Zoom. I'm not allowed to drive right now, which is like very inconvenient as a realtor. So if you can imagine, not the most fun season right now, but we're working our way through it.
I just had a baby too. Like, you poor
Yeah.
thing. I am praying for you. I was just talking to Lua about you because I'm new here. Hi.
Hi.
My name's Barbie, and I'm up in Tigard area, and she was saying that you guys do a lot of work up in like the Newburgh area.
Yeah.
So if you guys ever need an open house.
Oh my gosh, Barbie, I love this. Yes, because we have one coming up that I cannot do. And
Girl.
yes. Okay, we will chat.
Oh,
we
sorry.
live in Newburgh, and we work all of the Portland metro area down to Salem.
Perfect. That's kind of my goal, is to be up here as well. So
Yeah.
I'm in Tigard. So
And you'll get it. You'll figure it out. It'll all work out.
thank you. Well, I'd love to help in that way.
What? Oh, perfect. Yes. Yeah. So as Barbie said, I had a baby 4 months ago as well. So I have a 4-month-old. I have 3 kids, 3, 2, and 4 months. But okay, and then I have Barbie over here. She's in Tigard, and you're brand new, and you joined Soul Real Estate. Is that right? Yes. Okay.
Stuck on mute. Sorry. Yes, I joined Soul. I'm with a Soul Property. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
so, very cool. 3 kids as well.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And then who do I have in the classroom today?
Mackenzie, hi.
Hi, Jesse. Is that what you said?
Mackenzie.
Wow, really did not hear that. Okay, Mackenzie. And how long have you been in real estate, Mackenzie?
I got my license in May.
Cool.
Started just shortly after that. So yeah.
Awesome. Okay, next person.
And I'm Michael, and I got my Oregon license in February.
In February? Cool. Now you said Oregon license. Does that mean you were licensed somewhere else?
I was, yes.
Cool. Where
I
were
have
you licensed before?
I was licensed in Tucson, Arizona.
Cool. Okay. Well, welcome to Oregon. I hope you're not deceived by our lovely summer weather. Okay, guys, let's get started. I want to make the most of your guys' time here today. So please ask questions. I cannot access the chat because my computer's being silly. So if you do type something into the chat, Corinne will read it to me, but it might take me a second to get there. It's easier to just raise your hand. Mackenzie and, oh my gosh, can you say your name again?
It's Michael.
Michael. Okay, Mackenzie and Michael, just raise your hand so I can see better if you don't mind. But we will get started. So today we are talking about open houses. Woohoo, party. I also only have one hand, and so you're gonna it's gonna be all over the screen because I only have one hand. So you're in your lead generation section. You've talked about generating leads, growing your database, and now capturing leads through open houses, which is like such a great way to capture leads. We'll go over the benefits of open houses, best practices, how to prepare, prospect, and pursue. We'll also talk through some just like really basic strategies that just make it easier for everyone. Make sure you get the best use of your time while you're doing it, because sometimes, let's be honest, you can't always control. You can do everything in your power to invite people to show up, but you can't always control who's going to show up. And so we'll talk through some best practices around that as well. Okay. With where you guys are at and in Ignite, what challenges have you guys found so far? Where are you guys at? How are you feeling?
Specifically in regards to what, open houses or just in general?
You know, this is like a team meeting check-in, just in general. Where are you at?
Just getting started.
Yeah,
Been a little bit slow getting out of the gate.
yeah, totally. Mackenzie, how about for you?
Yeah, I think like on let's say Monday with Corinne, we talked about just like the follow-up communication with their prospects. So I think that's kind of where I'm struggling, is just that communication.
Yeah. Are you struggling with the communication because they're not getting back to you, or are you struggling to do the action to talk to them?
Both. I definitely get ghosted sometimes.
Yep, totally. Okay, cool. Okay, knowing that going into this, we'll talk through some of that as we go. And then do you guys have accountability partners? Have you guys been doing that?
I just have like the team girls that so I don't know if you know who Caitlin is, but that's been like my best friend for like a zillion years now. We joke that she's the reason for my divorce. It's totally a joke, but she like saved me in the best way ever. So she's like my accountability partner, but I was like literally saying, Mackenzie just said May, right? So are you brand new, Mackenzie?
I am, yeah.
You should like exchange informations and do that thing. I was literally thinking that before Bethany said that, because I'm like, I have major goals and yeah, single mom of 3, so definitely have stuff to accomplish.
Yeah, you guys definitely should do that. It makes a world of difference. When I was starting out my real estate career, just the fact that I could, I had somebody I would get on the phone with at 8, I think it was 8:15. It was whenever she dropped her kids off at school. Get on the phone with her at 8:15, first thing in the morning. And we would just talk for 5 minutes, each of us. This is what I'm going to do today. This is what my goal is. Here's where I'm going. We didn't even have time because of her busy schedule and whatever we had going on, to lead generate together. But just having that person that I could get on the phone with and say, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? And then by the end of the day, text them and say, where are you at? What are you doing? Did you get it done? Was great, because they would see holes that I didn't see in my, and it was easy because it was a 10-minute phone call. So, okay. All right, so we're covering open houses. As we go through today's content, if you guys have questions, it's kind of just easier if you just raise your hand and ask in the moment. If you want to write it down and save it for later, you totally can, but we're a small group, there's 4 of us. It's just easier if you ask as we go. Okay. So nothing else about your business will be as big an impact on it as the numbers of leads you have. What do you guys think about that? Why do you think we start our open house class with that quote?
Because if you don't have a lead business.
Yep. 100%. And the cool thing about open houses is that when you're prospecting, right, you can cold call people, and that's people you don't know, but the majority of the time, your best conversion lead is somebody you already know, right? And so if you're calling somebody in your database, and right, like Michael, you just moved here, and so your database might not be super big. When I moved up to Portland, I had lived in this area for oh gosh, I want to say 5 or 6 months before I got into real estate. I didn't really have any database in the area. I had a large database down in Corvallis, Albany, because that's where I moved from, but not in the Portland metro area. And so the way that I built my business was through open houses, because that's how I met people who were ready, willing, able buyers in the area that were warm leads. They weren't like, I'm not just like cold calling has its total place, but I wasn't just cold calling a neighborhood trying to like, oh, if I make 150 phone calls, maybe one of them might be a warm lead, and then I can take that one lead and try to convert it. Instead, I was being able to attract buyers to come, or sellers to come into me and be willing to have a conversation with me in order to convert them. And so it's just a higher conversion rate when you get the people in the door. So that's the question. How do we get the people in the door, right? So when we hold open houses, what is the purpose? Who are we holding these open houses for? Anybody know?
So you hold them for the people selling the house, but you're also holding it for buyers to come look at houses.
Yeah. You're the opportunity for somebody who's either unrepresented, not really serious in the market, so they're not going to call an agent, to get their foot in the door. And the whole purpose for you guys as the agent is to capture leads. Okay. That's the whole purpose. I'm going to also say on the other side, the whole purpose for you guys, especially as new agents, is to build a relationship with other strong listing agents in the office. And I'll touch on that in a little bit, but we're low inventory market right now. I mean, we're low sales and low inventory compared to the last couple of years. And so as a newer agent, you want the opportunity to do an open house. And so you want to be able to build that opportunity with those who do have listings, so that when the option comes up, you're the one that they pick. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so for many agents, holding open houses is their number one strategy. It was mine when I started, so that I could build my own database. So when I got into real estate, I got my license in February, and I had a decent number of closings I think it was by May. But I did 2 open houses every single weekend. So I would do one on Saturday from 11 to 1 and one on Sunday from 1 to 3. And there was more inventory on the market at the time, because this was 2014 or 2015, sorry. And so there was just more inventory and cheaper inventory. And I built an entire database through that. And so by just doing between February and May, by doing 2 open houses every single weekend, and following this open house model, I'm not joking, I'm not saying this just because I'm teaching this class, by actually following this open house model, I was able to build my database up really fast, and then start getting listing leads within 3 months, and having my own like whole set of listings by the time I hit August. So that was about 6 months, because I would get the leads, and then I'd have buyers closing, and then I started being able to get listings from it. And then they would refer their friends and family, and it just built really fast in a 6-month period, because I followed what they teach here. My first listing at the time, this was a big number. Now it doesn't feel like that big of a number. But the average price point in the Portland metro area at the time was around $325. And my very first listing that I got from an open house was $575. And I was like, this is amazing. I never would have met these people, because we have 0 connections. And had I just cold called them, the type of attitude people they were, he was a, oh my gosh, he was a Nike executive. He would never have answered my call and would have totally shot me down. But because him and his wife walked into the open house in the hopes of finding a new home because they needed to upsize, that was the door that the relationship was able to form. And so that's like the big win about open houses. Okay, let's talk about reasons not to hold an open house. What do you guys see as reasons not to hold an open house?
Fighting with mute because I don't want you guys hearing my children in the background. So I hosted one this last weekend, and it was a dud, right? I had I did 1 or noon to 3 Saturday and Sunday for them. And I didn't have a lot of traffic. I had maybe 7 people throughout the doors. One was someone who had already, listed it. And so it's a little discouraging in the fact that there wasn't any unrepresented buyers for me to even work with. But I think the other thing, it's kind of like cold calling. It's kind of like, I mean, when you're in business for yourself, you have to know that you might do 20 open houses and then get 3 buyers out of 1. It's kind of one of those things that you can't let it get to you, I guess. You know what I mean? It's sales, right? You're gonna get no, and then you get the yes.
Yeah. I think that in the Portland metro area this last weekend, that's a high number for for walkthroughs because our
So I
numbers.
did it in Salem. I did it in Salem
Okay.
last week. And that's why when I had asked Lou this morning, we were talking, I'm getting ready to go show to a buyer right now and I'm super excited. Because if I sell their house, then I get to list it, or if I find them a house, I get to list their house. So I'm like,
Yeah.
say manifestation prayers for this new agent. But it's defeating, right? When you go and you don't get any, but at the same time, it's a numbers game. So, I mean, I don't know what else is negative other than you're utilizing your time, but I was trying to input people into command while I was doing that. So I was like multitasking, I guess.
Yeah. I would say some of the reasons maybe not to do an open house somewhere is it's not going to be, and here's the thing. Let me say this. I always think if you have nothing else going on business wise, okay, it is always worth your time to do an open house, even if it's going to be a dud. And I'll explain that in just a second. If you're a busy agent, you have showings, you have other clients, this is, you've been working 7 days in a week and Saturday is going to be your only day off. Some of the reasons not to do it might be the home has been on the market for a while and they're not doing price reduction. So everyone that was interested probably already seen it. Everyone in that price point has probably already seen it. So that's probably not a great spot. If the pictures aren't, if it kind of doesn't show well, right? Like, do you want to sit in a dirty open house? No, I don't think that's necessarily a reason not to do it unless it's combined with the first item. Sometimes those houses that are priced lower, that the seller is just like, I don't have the time or the energy or the ability to clean this house up and make it what it needs to be, show ready, as people like to say. Sometimes those open houses, you get the best leads because you get a bunch of people coming, checking it out, because it's priced well, right? And so sometimes on those ones, I had one that we had a $25,000 foundation repair that needed done. So we were listed almost 30,000 below, and she couldn't pay for it out of closing. Like, this buyer had to pay for it. And so we were listed pretty far below, and I stood outside the open house and I probably had 40 people through each open house. And I just stood outside and checked people in the whole time, let them go through. This was during COVID. And so they would maze through what I created and then they'd come out a different door. And I think I sold probably closed 4 or 5 deals from that sale over the last 2 years. Because that is the thing about open houses is the lead, the money is in the follow-up. The more you follow up, some of these people, they go to open houses out of the comfort of not feeling pressure by another agent, right? They don't feel like they're wasting somebody's time by having to be there. So I wouldn't do it if it's been on the market for a long time and they're not doing any price reduction. I wouldn't do it if the house is just trashed and they're not doing price reductions. I might do it if it's a nice house and it's just a tougher market and the number of buyer pool is smaller, especially if I don't have a lot of business related activity happening in the moment. Because what I do when I'm sitting there at an open house and I don't have anyone through, I don't shop Amazon. I don't sit there and, plan my vacation. Well, sometimes I plan my vacations, but that's if I'm using this as a break for my children. But I'm not like typically sitting there shopping Amazon or planning my vacations or whatever it is. I'm actively take that time because I have set that time aside for real estate. I'm actively lead generating. And so if I am not have people walking in the door, I am making phone calls. Now it can feel a little bit risky because somebody could walk in the door any moment. Here's the thing. That's okay. You can either wrap up your phone call or when you're on the phone, say, hey, I'm sitting at an open house right now. So if I have to go really fast, I'll give you a call back in about 20 minutes. That's a part of the script when you get on the phone with somebody. And then when somebody walks in the door, you say, hey, I'm just wrapping up a phone call. I'll be right there. Right. So, especially if it's like a dead open house, like that's what we did. We had an open house this weekend and we had 3 people through total. It just happens sometimes. But my goal, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, in every open house is that I make sure I make a minimum of 10 contacts, but that doesn't during that 2-hour time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to come from the people walking in the door. Okay. Let's talk about limiting beliefs. I don't have a listing to hold open. Great. Let's go find one. I don't have signs yet. Okay, that is very real thing. So if you don't have signs yet, what could you do?
Go buy some.
Buy some? Yeah, totally.
I mean, there are some that are pretty,
Yep. So you can ask the market center. They have some that we can borrow. And then you can ask that listing agent, say, hey, I don't have signs yet. Whoever you're hosting for, can I borrow some? Or you can just post on the KW Mid-Willamette page. Anybody have signs sitting in the garage that I could borrow for my open house this weekend? Most people will be like, yeah, come pick them up.
Yeah.
And then you just remember to drop them back off because they're doing you a favor.
right.
And then every time they'll let you borrow them because if it's not work for them, they don't care. Okay. I may not know the answers to questions visitors have. Does this hold anyone back here?
Mm-mm.
Mackenzie? Yeah. That's like my husband. He wants to know 100% of all of the information so that he can 100% answer. I don't care to know any of the information. I'm going to BS it as I go. Two different personality types.
I think we're just, I'm like, I'm just gonna fly by the seat of my pants, and if I mess up, then it's a lesson, and if not, then I succeeded.
Yep. And that's some of us are built that way, and some of us are built more like Mackenzie or my husband, who's like, I'm not going to do that. That's going to stop me from even hosting the open house because I want to make sure that I'm presenting myself a certain way and I'm completely prepared. And so here's the thing. We have to do a kind of a game with both of those items where it's you have to educate yourself as much as you can, but we're not always going to know that all the questions that they're going to have. And so here is the script that we came up with when I got my husband into real estate about 7 years ago, which is, that's a really great question. I'm going to find the answer for that for you. Why don't you keep touring the house? When you come back, I'll let you know. And one of the things I was told,
Bethany,
yeah,
this is Melinda. Hi.
Hi.
I was just going to say that. Sorry if you hear my dishwasher in the background. That's why I'm muting.
good.
But sometimes, like I was the same as your husband, I always was really quick to need to find the answer, and I would have the listing in front of me, and I would try really hard and to get the answer. But really, if you say to the person that you're going to go ahead and see the house, and you tell them, I'm going to try to get a hold of the listing agent and find out a little more information about that or whatever, and then you can't, or you just whatever, then that's another reason for you to make more contact, a second contact. Well, I'm going to get that information and call you back as soon as I have it, or I'm going to email you that information.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, same line as, that's a really great question. Let me get that answer for you, right? Like that's the same idea, however you want to word it. Let me call that listing agent about that. Let me get that information. And I always lead them into something else, which is, why don't you go keep looking around the house and I'll have that for you when you get back. And I always plant myself in one spot at my open houses. So I'm always planted typically near the front door. And we're going to get to safety a little bit later. I've had some kind of scary safety things because I work in Portland. I always keep myself between two doors because I need to be able to go out the back if I need to, or go out the front. I have called the police while I was at an open house before. So that is, you just need to be safe about what you're doing, especially if you're by yourself.
That's my fear, is I am like a big fat chicken when it comes to that crap. And I literally I'm like, I need to have mace in my purse, and I'm like terrified of like being alone. And I'm being up in Portland. It is, I'm in Tigard and I don't feel like that's a bad area, but there's definitely some sketchy areas up here that make me cringe.
There are some sketchy areas, and so you just have to be smart about what you're doing. And so we'll get to safety in a little bit. But when I plant myself that way, one of the things though about planting yourself is that the people know when they're coming back after you say, that's a great question. Let me get the answer. They're gonna pass you on the way out, and so you can be like, hey Sue, thank you so much for asking that. I wanted to share with you, I got this information. Is that kind of what you were thinking? Whatever it was, like if it was an HOA question, if it was a whatever it is, and it's, or I wasn't able to actually get that answer. Do you have continued interest in the house? Because I would love to call you or text you with that answer later. And if they're like, no, actually, I don't even care enough to know, right? Like, I don't even really care anymore. Like, this house doesn't work for me. Oh, okay, great. What about the house didn't work for you? This. Oh, okay, awesome. Do you mind if I send you a couple other homes, or do you want to meet for a buyer consultation, or whatever your follow up and your closing is from there? But sometimes just having that one sentence is enough to be like, okay, I can say this, and then I'll have time to find the answer. Okay, open houses don't really work because most people look online. This is both true and false, I think. What do you guys think about that limiting belief?
I still think people like to come look at the house in person, especially when they're just like cell phone photos online. It's still kind of hard to see like the niceness of the home, I guess.
Mhm.
Smells,
Yeah.
smells and neighborhood,
Yeah.
all of those things are things that they don't see online.
Yes. Who is sitting over there on the left? Well, it's my
Brina.
left, so you're right.
Brina,
Brina. Hi, Brina.
Brina, R-E-N,
I'm gonna need you to say it again. I think it's
Brina,
Brina.
no B.
Brina.
Yes.
Okay, good. Got it. Thank you. We made it.
Yeah.
Brina. Okay. Okay.
And from a statistical factor, 15, for 15 people coming in, you should get one sale. I mean, that's just the stats for open houses.
Yes, and that's if those. That's an interesting stat because I've looked into it a little bit more. The 15 people, it has to be 15 unrepresented buyers. So some people get really discouraged by that because it's like, well, I had 7 people through my open house, and then the next day I had, 8 people through, and I've hit my 16, and none of them are interested in working with me. And you're like, yeah, totally get that. How many of those were unrepresented? Great. Okay. So it's that averaging out. But honestly, if you let's say you spend 2 hours doing an open house, once every weekend, that's 8 hours. And if you spend 8 hours and you get one closing from that, is that worth our time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's all about it averaging out. But the NAR statistic is that 97% of people look at their home online. It's just where we all look, right? Like the internet is a wonderful thing. But they cannot understand the feel. A lot of people can't understand the layout, which is really funny. As realtors, we see layouts all the time, so we understand how it works. And a lot of people, while they buy for it's this emotion versus logic. They go to the open house based on logic. They buy based on emotion. And so it's about the feel that they're walking into. That's why open houses work. I won't feel safe. We're going to cover this later. There's a lot of things that you can do to feel safe. If in the end, you just can't get over it. I'm going to say this, and maybe it's controversial. Open houses just aren't for you. If you can't find a way to make yourself feel safe in the open houses, then it's just probably not a good fit for you. But we'll talk through some safety things later because it is true. You are sitting typically alone unless you have a lender, which is, I think, the best way to feel safe is to have a second person at your open house. I don't usually do second people at my open houses. I just don't have that concern, even though I have had some incidences. But if you are fearful and afraid, that is because of real reasons, like scary things do happen. The best way is have a second person, and then you feel it's just much better. Okay. We are moving on. Okay. And I'm looking at your guys' student handbook. So we've covered why hold open houses, any reason to not hold an open house, and who is that? Where we're headed. I thought we did that, but I guess we didn't. Who benefits from the open house? Oh, that's where we're headed. Okay.
You do, the seller's agent does.
Yep, exactly. You do, the seller's agent does. The neighbors really do, because if they're thinking about selling their home, they they get to kind of see what is happening in the market. How does my home compare? They get to have a real conversation with a live agent who actually knows the market. And then the buyers benefit because they get a typically no hassle / no like obligation showing of a home that they were interested in. Okay. Let's see. I'm one-handed, so I'm struggling with my tech here. So one of the things about these open houses is it allows for both prospecting based and marketing enhanced lead generation, which if you've read the MREA is really what we're focused on. And that's what you need. Like, that is what's going to build your business, because I hate wasting my time. Like, to an extreme, I hate wasting my time. So I used to think that open houses were a waste of my time because I could not control the number of people that came in. I could only give people the opportunity. What I didn't understand in my young agentness is the marketing enhanced part of it creates a visibility for me as a brand, as well as it creates oh my gosh, what's the word? Credibility around me. And so if people are seeing my marketing, they're like, oh yeah, this person's an agent, instead of like, they used to walk in and be like, who is this 21-year-old girl who dresses like a school teacher? Like, what's like, does she know what I'm talking about? And the minute I would start talking, they would know, like, boom, she knows her stuff, because I had to know it way better than the 40, 50, 60-year-old agents that were hosting open houses that automatically had credibility because of their age. So, what I didn't understand at 21 was how the marketing enhanced my lead generation, because doing Facebook Live videos, I don't know if you're on Facebook, doing Instagram videos, doing TikTok videos, those might seem silly, but it builds a credibility for the brand that you're creating for yourself. Even if you've done 0 deals, right? Like, even if you've done 2 deals, even if you've only co-done deals, right? Like, it builds saying, I'm out here working, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, even if nobody had shown up, right? They don't know that nobody showed up. The only people that know that nobody showed up because you're sitting in your open house doing a reel or whatever is the other agents. And who cares what they think? They're not the ones buying houses from you. Like, bottom line. And so, but you want to do the prospecting work around it. And so I feel like people sit in 2 categories. They're much more comfortable with this marketing bit where they can, I'm going to say passively, even though it is work, passively post online, right? They can do it from the comfort of their couch. They can make flyers. They can put all of that information online. Or they're more comfortable with this, where it's like, I'm just going to get on the phone and make a bunch of phone calls. Like, and that's the camp I follow into. This is the camp my husband follows into. And I'm like, I can control this. I can control the number of people that I can just keep making phone calls until somebody answers. Like, that's the bottom line of what I can do here. And I know that that's going to lead me into a closing down the road, but my pool is only so big. And so if I make the phone calls and do the marketing, and then I'm meeting people who aren't in my pool, and I'm creating an opportunity for that, then I'm hitting all 3 bases at the same time. And sometimes it feels like you have to counterbalance, because it's like, well, I'm doing this too much, so now I need to start doing this more. I'm doing this too much, now I got to start doing this more. Oh, I'm not doing enough reach out where I'm expanding my pool.
I agree on that. You were talking about like reels and stuff like that. Do I need to have, like, so say I do an open house for someone, do I need to have extra permission to be able to like record that house and do something, or like, is
the
it
market
okay?
center answer is yes.
Okay.
The market center answer is yes.
So, but your answer is no.
My answer is, if I have a text from the listing agent that says, hey, can I do a Facebook Live, or hey, can I do this while I'm at the home, that says yes, that's enough.
Okay.
If I'm going to court, if I end up in court and I'm like, hey, I asked permission, it's not my fault if she didn't ask the seller.
Right.
That's my answer.
Well, I'm just thinking, because like, so I come from the social media world, like that's like my kind of been my thing. Like, I've done network marketing and built really successful businesses that way, and TikToks and stuff is kind of where I'm like, that's part of my major like marketing plan. And so I want to be able to do some houses and stuff to do that. But I was like thinking in my head, like, obviously I don't want to wind up in trouble, like,
Yep. Always ask the listing agent. I mean, when you're setting up your open house, and we're going to get into this, add that in. I don't think that was added. I did not see it. As, are you okay with me marketing for the home? Are you okay with me marketing for the open house? Are you okay with me posting? And a lot of the time, all they want is, if you're hosting an open house for me, Barbie, it's, I'm going to want you to put hosted by Barbie, listed by Bethany Olson,
Okay.
my Keller Williams info. So that way they know that you're not the listing agent and we're not confusing or crossing any lines.
Right. Right.
Okay.
All for,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, I was just saying, all for respecting the boundaries. I don't want to do it and then wind up in trouble over something so silly, you know?
The biggest item is if you're, it's the seller's permission is really what it's about. It's the seller has a relationship with the listing agent saying that they can advertise online. It's in the listing contract. So that's allowed. You being an outside agent need permission to ask if you can. And so if you ask the listing agent, am I allowed to do this online? She's the one who has the relationship to be able to, she technically, I think the right thing is that she's supposed to get a signed paper. I think technically. But that's not your, yeah. People do it all the time. There are a couple of lawsuits out there, but they're not in Oregon and they're not around, it's around people who didn't have permission originally and agents just going and taking from the listing agents, marketing and acting as if that's their listing. So, okay. Let's talk about the benefits of open houses, right? We have, right? If we're looking for quality lead or qualifying leads, right? We're looking for a higher ROI. That is not always true. And so sometimes you have to do other things during your open house in order to get the ROI that you're searching for. It's a great prospecting tool and it's inexpensive. You guys, this is one of the cheapest ways to do an open house. The main thing you invest when you're preparing an open house is the time. The return on the investment can be great. You can generate leads, qualify leads, and potentially get a deal closed. However, you have to do the work in order for that to happen. And so it is a time investment, which is great for newer agents or agents who don't have a sphere where they're currently at. And you're most likely looking for buyer leads while you're here. Okay. With open houses, you just get what you put into it. If you show up and you don't market it, it's kind of just like sitting around watching your phone and waiting for somebody to call you, right? That happens sometimes, right? A blind mice is right. Wait, a blind mice finds food. What does that say? I don't know. You know what I'm saying. But if you put the work in, you can almost guarantee that you're going to get the return that you're looking for. And what I mean by that is the return doesn't always look like having 40 people show up to your open house, right? It doesn't. Sometimes the return comes in the work that you do Monday through Friday leading up to your Saturday, Sunday open house. Sometimes the return looks like the 15 phone calls you get to make during the open house. Sometimes the return looks like, so for me, I always look at an open house as this is set aside time where I'm hoping and I'm going to do my darndest to make sure that I'm creating an opportunity for people to come to me. If those people don't come, okay, now I'm going to move on and I'm going to focus on whatever else I can do to make the most of my time. That is how I don't get bitter about open houses. And it's like, I always relate it to my kids' sleep. I don't know if anyone else besides Barbie and I have kids. I can only offer my kids the opportunity to sleep. They got to take the chance, right? Like I cannot close their eyes, force them and push them. I mean, I could, but I might get CPS called on me.
I was like, girl, watch me. No, I'm just kidding.
They have to choose to sleep. I can only offer it. And that's the same thing with buyers and sellers. We can only offer the opportunity for them. They have to take it. Now we can do everything in our power to set it up for success repeatedly over and over and over for ourselves. And because we know it's a numbers game, right? Rihanna, what is your, I'm going to call you Rihanna is what I want to say. Rena.
Yes.
Okay. Like Rena said, we know that it's 15 people, 15 unqualified buyers that walk in. Out of that, you should get one closing. And so it's a numbers game. It's keeping that up. And sometimes it's you hit your 20, but you're like, well, that's totally fine. At least I'm close to my 15. We're doing good. So I have done a lot of talking. I would love to hear 2 ahas or 2 things that you're mulling over or thinking about, or even just completely disagree with. We can fight. That's fine. Give me 2 before we move on.
I just think for me, it's a lot of like the right questions to ask and like learning the language of like what to say, more of the open-ended questions, things like that are going to get you where I need to be. I mean, I didn't have any unrepresented buyers to begin with, so obviously I'm not going to try and step on toes with someone. But I still feel like for me, the biggest thing is like, I feel like I don't necessarily know what to say or how to say it. So that's where like for me, I'm like trying to, that's where I want to grow is like, all right, what's the right thing to say that's going to get me to the next step of the conversation versus just, oh, okay, that is great. Like you're looking for a house, fabulous. But like, obviously I need to make it to where like they realize that I can be the one to help them, you know, make those house dreams reality.
Yeah. Okay.
That's where I struggle.
And we're going to get into that in our next section.
Perfect.
Anyone else? I said 2. That was 1.
I like your script.
Cool. The one on
That's really great. And when you get you an answer in the meantime, why don't you just keep checking them out?
Yep.
Like that's helping there and trying to find an answer right at that moment.
yeah, which is really awkward when you do it. You're sitting there and of course you can't open your app right and you're not going to the right place and you can't log in and
your phone internet dies right at that moment. And they're like, oh, now they're like, oh, so the internet in this house isn't great either, huh? It's like, well, yeah.
Yep. And I'll tell you guys, I use that script all the time. Also with when I'm showing to buyers that I work with all the time. I'm like, that's a great question. Let me find that out for you. Let's go look in the office over here. Let's go look in the kitchen. Why don't you check out the pantry while I figure that out? So, along that, I was going to say earlier, one of the things that I was taught early on in my career that has really benefited me is never guess the answer. Never guess it. Don't do it. It lowers your credibility the second you guess it wrong. Always say something along the lines of like, let me figure that out for you. And always create yourself and position yourself as the person that can find all the answers. You don't have to know all the answers. You just need to be the person that can get them all the answers. Because if they go into the relationship with you thinking you have to know all of the answers, you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you show them, it's not about me knowing all the answers. I know the market stats. I also sometimes will get asked, like I'm out showing in a neighborhood and they're like, do you know what the average sale price in this little neighborhood is? Not all of Tigard, not all of Corvallis. Do you know what the average for this neighborhood is, right? Like the Grand Oaks neighborhood. No, why would I know that off the top of my head? Like we are not like human encyclopedias over here. So I'd be like, yeah, I can find that for you. Hold on one sec. Why don't you go look and I'll pull that up. They go look. I'm like, great. I pull out to figure out how to fix. If you don't know how to find those stats, that is one of the most beneficial things for you is to figure out how to find those market stats. That's not what today's class is about. But so being able to then pull up that information and then say, okay, the average homes in this area are sitting on the market for 2.1 months and they're selling at 527,000. But, and always look for that extra fun little fact that you can. But on that, they're actually selling at 97% of list price, which means that they're doing a price reduction before they hit that in that 2.1 months. Great. It took me likely because I probably pulled it from the Kelly app or I pulled it from the RMLS. It took me probably 2 minutes to pull that. And I sounded like the most knowledgeable person and I didn't lie and I didn't drop my credibility. And they feel comfortable because they know that I'm getting information from a source and not just pulling something out of my head. Okay. Moving on. If anyone has anything else?
Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. Okay, best practices. All right, so does that say set goals? Can you see that? Yes. Okay. So let's talk about setting goals. Remember, I think you guys have done the 6 personal perspectives. Is that right? Talking about from moving from E to P. With everything that we do, it's essential to be purposeful in our mindset and our actions and what we're doing. And a lot of the time, what I'm purposeful in, like I was just explaining, is the way that I'm setting myself up for this relationship that I'm creating with somebody else. So I'm making sure that they don't think I have to be a human encyclopedia. Instead, that they know that my goal with them is to be the source of information. So if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find it for them, and I'm going to find it for them in a more timely manner than they'd be able to find it for themselves. So what kind of goals do you think are appropriate for an open house?
Talk to everybody who comes in.
Right? Like taking home their number.
Okay, getting everyone to sign in, talking to everyone. Yeah.
More confidence in your real estate, like in yourself as an agent, right? Like the more people you talk to, the more confidence you get.
True. Yes. All of those are good. When we're setting goals, we want something that's measurable, right? We want to set SMART goals all the time. Specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable. Is that R?
Realistic.
I mean, I would
Realistic.
say a buyer, but you can't guarantee that you're going to get that. And so I'm the type that, like, if I set a goal and I don't achieve it, then I'm like, oh, but if I set an action goal, then I know, like, you guys, calm down. Like, actions create results, right? So that's where I play with it.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, if we're looking at our SMART goals, we can only control so much. And so when you're setting your goals around your open house, you want to make sure that you're setting goals that are achievable, that you can do in a timely manner, that are measurable. What was R again?
Realistic.
Realistic is the key term that I keep forgetting. Rena and realistic. I'm gonna remember these. To set a realistic goal, is it realistic to say, I'm gonna set a buyer's consultation from everyone? No. Do we want to? Absolutely. But if my goal is to have a certain number of conversations, I can control that, because if people aren't walking in the door, I can get on the phone and start making phone calls. And if you have a plan of action, like you actually have set goals, which I know this kind of sounds silly when it comes to open houses, right? It felt like when you probably got into real estate, I should be able to just set my sign up, have my cookies, right? Because that's what we saw. Have my cookies and my water, and people are going to come to me, and then it's going to be successful. And it's sure, you could totally do that if you are okay with your return on your time investment being lower. Because yeah, absolutely, maybe every 3, 4, 5 open houses, you're going to get what you need from it. I walked into an open house this weekend because I didn't want to schedule a showing for this home that I'm never going to buy, but I wanted to see it. And it's an owner-occupied home. So I was like, I have to go to Home Depot. I'm going to stop by this open house. And by stop by, I can't drive right now, so my husband drove me. $1.8 million home. I walk in the door. The agent is eating a hard-boiled egg.
Oh my God, the smell.
Is on the phone. Which, like, I don't mind being on the phone, but it's hard-boiled egg on the phone and is barefoot. Which, like, I just have a weird thing about being barefoot. Like, it just seems really unprofessional to me. So I just think that's weird. I have a second set of house shoes that I take with me because I think it's weird. They're shoes that don't touch the outside if my clients don't want that. And I'll tell them, I say, I'm wearing house shoes, but if you guys want to put on booties or take your shoes off, that's great.
I was barefoot in my last one because they took the shoes off at the door. Now you're making me second guess myself.
No. It was just the combo of the egg and the barefoot that really got me. And she was on the phone on speaker with her kids, which totally fine. I have kids. I was just like, okay, this is a $1.8 million home, right? Like, the way that you present yourself is really important. And I walk in, the home is not is not as pretty as the pictures, all of this stuff. I'm like, the view is fan-freaking-tastic, but the home is really worn out. And it matched actually the presentation that this woman gave me. She did not ask me to sign in, did not ask for my name or information, and spent the whole time on speakerphone with her husband and kids. And I was like, this is a really interesting experience. And so sometimes, like, if you've been to open houses, you see things like this. But my question is, was that even worth her time to be there? Like, she's not even the listing agent. So I'm like, what is she getting from this experience? Except maybe they're paying her $50 to sit there and hold the door open because they couldn't find anyone else or something like that. So for me, I'm always looking at, what do I need to get out of this to feel like it's worth my time? And if I can't control who's going to walk in the door, what else am I going to do? So if people aren't walking in the door, I am going to be making phone calls. If people aren't walking the door, like there's certain things I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to set my goals accordingly, which is mine typically is that I need 10 contacts by the end of my, and by contact, I'm meaning, a real estate conversation, right? That doesn't necessarily mean I'm adding 10 people to my database. That's a great goal. If that's what you want your goal to be, and that's what you need, awesome. For me, it was, I needed 10 contacts. For someone else, I just need to have one appointment. As I got later in my career, because that's how I started, it became, I just want one appointment from today. And if I don't get it from my open house, I have to go and lead generate after my open house until I get that one appointment. And sometimes, and this was a thing I did with my MAPS coach, sometimes it would take me 3 phone calls to get one appointment, and sometimes it would take me 50. And that's just how my brain works, is I just wanted that one appointment and I could move myself forward. Okay. So after you set your goal, and later you guys are gonna work on your open house plan. After you set your goal, you need to pick the house. You know, this is a toughie in our market right now. We have low inventory. Your goal is to generate and qualify leads. So just like think about that when you're picking the type of house. What my booklet says is it's important to look for something not more than 3 turns off of a major road. You can do with that what you want. I don't necessarily agree with that, because some people don't want to be off of a major road. It might be, I want something in the Benton Woods neighborhood, or I want something in the Grand Oaks neighborhood, or I want something in downtown Albany in the historic district, whatever. Right now, in my opinion, I'm going to take what I can get and I'm going to make the best of it, because our inventory is low, and I'm going to try my darndest to get something that's new on the market and not something that's been sitting on the market for a long time. And then if it has been sitting on the market for a long time, I'm going to ask, are you guys planning on doing a price reduction? So sometimes, let's say there's no available open houses that weekend and you don't have a listing to host, right? Okay, this is a very real scenario that happened. Look in our brokerage and say, okay, who has had a home that's been on the market for 3 to 4 weeks, and ask them, are you guys planning on doing a price reduction anytime soon on this? And if so, I'd love to do an open house at this home when you do. So you can preemptively, and then they're not posting for the masses, hey, I'm doing a price reduction, or I have an open house available, this blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the times, let's just be honest, the listing agents don't plan that far in advance. And so they're asking people on Thursday for a Saturday, Sunday open house. And if you want to follow the open house model, the way that Gary Keller has set it up, you kind of need to know a little further in advance. And so if they have a scheduled price reduction coming, then you can start doing the advertising and all of that beforehand. Okay, any questions on picking the house? Cool. Okay, prepare and best practices. Remember, your goal is to cultivate a relationship. You want this person is walking in, and you want to make sure they know, like, and trust you. Okay, you're going to do that. You have to do that very quickly. So I'm going to tell you I have my door open. Wait, pick the time? Okay, yeah. I'm making sure I'm saying this at the right spot. I require everyone to sign in. I don't let them in the open house without it. I just feel like it is doing a disservice to the seller and myself and the other agent. Because even if I don't do anything with the information that I'm given, I'm at least able to say, I know that these are real people that came into the open house, right? I know that if something got swiped from the open house, which is very rare, I did my best to protect the sellers and myself, and honestly, the E&O insurance of our office, right? Like, I know that I'm doing the best of my knowledge. I don't have pushback. I've had pushback one time in 9 years. One time. That's it. And that person left and reported me to the MLS. And you know what the MLS said? The MLS was like, that's fine. You don't have to, you can set up a showing with a different agent. You do not have to go to that person's open house if you're not going to abide by the rules of that open house. They were
I have
very
a question
angry.
with that. So I did have someone who said, do I have to sign in? What's your like response to that?
I normally ask, okay, so let me walk you through it and then we'll get there.
Sounds good.
They walk up the door and I say, hey, welcome to the open house. Can you, if it's a shoes off open house, I say, can you take your shoes off or add your booties? I'm wearing my house shoes. Because I want them to know I'm not just have other rules for myself. Sometimes I just wear booties if I forget my house shoes. And they say, because I'm trying to make them comfortable and I'm trying to mirror and match what I'm asking them to do. And then they say, oh yeah, no problem. People don't have a problem with that. And then I say, look them in the eyes and say, I'm just going to get you signed in really fast. I always fill out the information for them because I don't want them to write sloppy. I want to have actual information. I'm just going to get you signed in really fast. It's a request from the seller. Look down at my paper and say, what was your name? Do not make eye contact when you're asking these questions. If you're looking at your paper, they kind of are like, Bethany. And you're like, great. Bethany, and what's the best phone number? And what's the best phone number for you, Bethany? Don't look at them. Look at your paper that you're writing on. And then they might say, well, what are you going to use this phone number for? And I said, oh, are you worried about spam? And they're like, yeah, I don't want to be spammed. I said, listen, I won't call you if you don't want me to. Not a problem. I don't sell your information. I said, really, this is for the safety of the home to make sure. I said, and if by the end of your showing, you're comfortable, I'd love to give you a phone call to follow up about the home. And if they're like, well, yeah, I really don't want that. Then I say, great, give me your information. I will not call you. But then I know if something happened, I have the opportunity. If something crazy happened, I don't think something will. It's just a request from the seller. And they say, okay, good. And when I'm telling them that information, I'm making very intense eye contact so that they trust me. I mean, not like this, but it's like I'm telling you I'm trustworthy. I'm looking you in the eyes. I'm not going to lie to you. And don't lie to them. Don't call them. Don't do it. If you tell somebody you're not going to call them, don't call them. And I put a little mark next to their number when I write it down, and I will show them. See this little mark? It's my note to tell myself not to call you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. And then I want to say like 9 out of 10 times, they come back and they're like, most of the time they're like, yeah, I don't care if you want to give me a call for follow-up. Great. And now I'm not fighting with them about their number. But I already made them feel comfortable and safe when I told them, I have a system around this. I'm not going to call you. I do need your information though.
Yeah.
Was that a question from the classroom? No. Okay. But the eye contact thing, that's a big one. Don't make eye contact when you're asking for their number. They are more likely to give you a real number if you're not looking at them. I don't know why, but there's like a whole Harvard study on it. Okay. So then they walk in the open house. I get them to sign in, and then I say something along the lines of, after I get their number, I'm hit or miss if I ask for their email. I don't want to ask for too much up front. I tend to not ask for their email because I don't care about it. I want their phone number. And some people are the opposite. They'd rather get an email than a phone number. It just depends how you run your business. I'm not going to ask for both in that moment though, because it feels like too much. Then I say, are you working with an agent? And if they say yes, my immediate follow-up question is, and what's that agent's name? Do you know how many people lie that they're working with an agent? Like so many. And they'll say, and then I know, oh, you're not really working with an agent. You've just seen it, or you know somebody who happens to be an agent, or whatever it might be. So I often will say, oh, okay, what brought you into the open house? If they don't know their agent's name, I just move on past it, because I'm not crossing any lines here or anything. The people who are working with an agent, they know their agent's name. They're actually working with an agent. And so then then I'm able to, I know that later on in the conversation, if we have a connection, I'm going to be able to get it out of them if they're actually working with an agent or not. And so if they are working with an agent, we'll go there first. I just say, great. Oh, that's a great agent. You know, if they say, I'm working with Sue Long. Awesome. Sue's a wonderful agent. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll follow up with Sue about what you guys thought about the house. Okay. And I write down their agent's name, and I do follow up with them because I like to be a person of my word, and I don't like to say things that I'm not going to do. I've learned that in this business. Don't say things you're not going to do. And if you make a promise, write it down so you can go back to it later and check it over and say, like, what promises did I make to people today, so that I can follow the integrity that I believe in and be a person of my word, because you're just not going to remember all the things that you might promise people. That's also on my little sign-in sheet. This is one of the reasons I don't like people to sign themselves in, is I have notes on the sign-in sheet. So Billy walked in, and Billy was wondering if the HOA has the ability to, if they could keep their RV in the driveway, or if they'd have to have it on the side of the house with something covering it, right? Because that's really important to Billy. So I wrote the note, HOA, RV, right there. And I had said to Billy, that's a great question. I'm going to find that answer out and get it back to you. But then I had a super busy open house, right? So people just kept coming in. So I wasn't able to go back. And I said, hey, Billy, I'm so sorry. I haven't had a chance to get that answer yet. But my open house ends at 1 o'clock. And the first thing I'm going to do after the open house is get that answer for you. Is it okay? Do you want me to text you, call you, or email you with that info? And what's funny is a lot of the time they say, oh, an email's fine. And you're like, well, I didn't get your email. So great. What was that email for you? What's the best email for you again? Okay, Billy@myself.com. Got it. Great. Awesome. Okay, you guys have a great day. Are you checking out other open houses? Okay. So that's kind of how that goes for me. So I get them in the door. I get them to sign in. I ask if they have an agent. My follow-up question is, what brings you out to the open house today? I am not a hard closer. Never have been. I have to create systems around closing because I hate it that much. Like, I hate it. It's not in my personality. I'm a, if you guys know the disc, I'm a high I, high S. I like fun. I value that. Hard closes aren't fun to me. So when I ask you, okay, what brought you out to the open house? And they're like, oh, we were just on a walk and we saw your sign. Awesome. I'm going to make that note for myself. So then when I follow up with the agent, because this is about an agent relationship as well, I can tell them, we had 5 groups through. 3 of them came because they saw my signs. 2 of them came because they saw it on Zillow. Awesome. I'm not specifically seeking that information. If they offer it up, I'm going to take it. But I don't want to sit there and bombard them with questions because that's overwhelming. So I try to just do name, sign, or phone number. What do you have an agent, and what brought you into the open house? And then if they're chatty people, they're going to stand there and chat with me for a little bit. I might start walking them into the back of the house if I have nobody else in line to sign in, especially if it's a 2-story. I'm going to walk them around the lower level and ask them a couple questions and like, oh, do you have kids? How long have you been looking for a home? Is this your first weekend out? Oh, you're just a neighbor? Awesome. Were you just curious about the price, or and I love to ask leading questions like that, because most neighbors come because they're curious about the price, right? Were you just curious about the price, or, and they usually finish my sentence and they'll say, well, no, we've been thinking about selling. Or no, I'm just so surprised that Mr. and Mrs. Seller are selling their home. I couldn't believe it. Great. So you have no intention of moving at all. I'm not going to waste my time here longer. Awesome. Yeah, well, look around and tell me what you think on your way out. Because that's how I end every conversation I don't want to be in anymore. Awesome. Let me affirm you and tell you to talk to me on your way out, because I want to move on to somebody else who's more worth my ROI. And so that person can move on if they're like, well, I'm a neighbor and I'm thinking about selling my home. Or I want to know what the prices are because it just seems so crazy that homes in my neighborhood are selling for this price. And if we've thought about selling, cool, okay. If you were to sell, where would you go? What would you do next? Oh, well, we've always wanted farm country. We've always wanted to live on a couple acres. Oh my gosh, me too. I love farm animals. Do you want like a hobby farm, or are you horse people? What are you kind of looking at? And I'm just trying to relate to them, but I'm prying for information here. Right? And so let's say the home is listed at 600,000. I said, so if your home were to sell for 600,000, would you guys sell it? And they're like, I don't know. My home is a little bit nicer than this home, because they always think that. Oh, okay. So at what price would you sell your home for so you could get on acreage and have those horses that you've always dreamed of? They're like, well, I'd probably sell it. I don't know, 650. I'd be comfortable with 650. Okay. Well, I'd love to run some numbers on your home and see if you would be and see if we could get 650 for your home so we can move you to acreage. Have you started? Now, this is where I'm not a hard closer, because I put the idea out there and I'll say, have you started looking at any acreage in the area to see kind of what you like? And that's usually my key, right? Did the husband drag the wife here, or the wife drag the husband? Or whoever it is. Because a lot of the time, this comes where it's like, well, my wife saw this one property online, and then she's like, well, let's go see what our neighbor's home is selling for, Or it's like, no, they have not looked at acreage at all. They literally just saw this come on the market and walked over because they were coming home from baseball and wanted to come. Great. Now I have an idea of where they're at in the process and how long of cultivation it's going to be. Has it been that one of the spouses has been scrolling Zillow, looking for acreage property, XYZ, and trying to push this? Or has it been, no, we literally were just neighbors in the neighborhood, and now we're like, wait, if we could get 650 for our home, which is nicer than this home that's listed at 600,000, I would totally sell. So those are the conversations you're looking for. Okay, so that's neighbors. Buyer walks in and says, I'm actually working with an agent, and you say, cool, what's their date? And they don't have an answer for you. This is actually like way more common than people know. And you're like, oh, okay, no worries. So how long have you been looking? And they'll say, well, we've seen a couple homes. We just kind of reached out to the Zillow agent. Okay, so they saw homes with different agents every single time. Or I've had some people say, yeah, we just set showings with Redfin. Oh, great. Okay. Have you seen any homes that you liked? No, not really. Oh, okay. Yeah, I found that if like people don't sit down for a buyer consultation, they end up just looking at a bunch of homes that don't actually work with them and kind of wasting their time. Do you feel like that's happened to you? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I do feel like that's happened to me. Well, my first step when I'm working with a buyer is we sit down, we go through a consultation. I was like, we can do it over Zoom. And then you can be in the comfort of your own home, or we can do it in person. It's just like a quick presentation that we go through to talk about the buying process from start to finish, as well as what the market's doing, what the stats are, what's happening in this market. Would that be something that interests you? And a lot of times they're like, I'm not so sure. I'll have to think on that. And I'll be like, great. Anytime they shut me down like that, I just say, great, awesome. Yeah, totally. And then I switch the conversation. And so then I'm saying, okay, why don't you head and look at the house? And then when you come back, we can discuss what you thought about it. Great. It depends how resistant they are. Sometimes they walk in and they're like, I'm not working with an agent and I'm not interested. Great. Awesome. Look at the house. Let me know what you think afterward. And then by the time they've walked through the house, they've warmed up and then they're willing to have a conversation with me. I'm not pushing anything. I don't need to. I don't need to work with people who don't want to work with me. Bottom line. I have strong boundaries around that. If you're going to treat me like a jerk and I'm going to be put up against combativeness every single time, I don't need to deal with that. However, I know the nature of people is sometimes they walk into an open house with all their guards up as they walk through the home, and they see that I'm not trying to do a bait and switch or just trying to sell them, or I'm only here to get their contact info. They get more comfortable with me. Okay, that was a lot. Any questions so far? Wow, I'm just that perfect that nobody has any questions at all.
Is there a way to get, what you just said? So that we could use it? All that
Is there a way?
scripting- Pardon?
Say that again.
Is there any way to get all that scripting you just used? So we can work with it?
She's recording this, right? You're recording,
Yes,
right?
it's being recorded. So you can take the
Okay.
recording and go through that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is the beauty of internalized scripts. I don't think I'm allowed to use that word, right? Internalized dialogue, right? That's the word I can use. Okay. This is the beauty. I have practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced the dialogue that we're given, and then you internalize it, and then you can make it your own, because that all sounds so natural coming out of my mouth. None of that sounds forced. None of that sounds like I'm trying to sell you a line. And when I'm standing there with people, they don't feel like I'm trying to sell them a line, because I genuinely mean what I'm saying. I genuinely know that if I can get them to sit down and have an appointment with me, I'm going to save their time. My average buyer looks at 5 houses in person before writing an offer. 5, right? We're not wasting our time being professional door openers. I'm a real estate agent, not a door opener. So I know that I'm going to save their time. I also know that I negotiate well. I know that I'm better than everyone else. And I don't mean that in like a negative way. I just know, like, I'm not trying to be like, I'm the best agent out there. You know what? I have gone up against agents in our office and they are so good because they also follow their trainings that we're given. But how did I get confident? Is I faked it until I made it. And then I went to other people who were better than me, and I asked them questions and I asked for help. And I said, you know, Lua, I need help with this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. How do you handle this situation? And she's like, great, this is what you do. I'm like, okay, awesome. And then I would regurgitate everything that she said to me. I am good at what I do, and I have a confidence in that. And when you don't have a confidence in it, you got to fake it till you make it, and you got to ask other people who know what they're doing. Because you have to believe the dialogue that you're using, and that's what makes it believable, because it is. Okay. Any other questions on that? The last thing I would say is, I'm not a paper person. So I don't keep paper anything at my open house. I don't. I have my iPad and I have the MLS sheet on there that we can reference. I do all of my sign-ins on my iPad. And when I'm signing people in, I do it on the iPad, and then I show them the MLS sheet. And if they want a copy of the MLS sheet, I do this like really annoying thing where I say, hey, do you want me to text it to you or email it to you? And then because we live in Oregon, I just get away with like, I'm trying to go paperless, save the trees. I don't mean that. I mean, sure, I care about trees. I'm not motivated by that. I lose papers. I don't have a printer at my house. I'm not near an office that I'm gonna print papers, because I'm a part of Keller Williams Mid-Willamette, and my office is an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes away from me. And even when I was near my office, I still didn't print papers. I just don't like the hassle of it. I also don't like the busyness of it. So I'd rather capture their information. And a lot of the time on a MLS document, I've already gotten their phone number when they came in the door. A lot of the time, they're like, yeah, just email it to me. Awesome. And then the people that say, yeah, just text it. I know those people never check their emails. They're me. They're like me. They're always just on their phones texting. And they do 90% of their stuff through text messages, and they're not an email person. Love that. But I've captured their email another way later in the day, or later in their visit to the open house. Okay. Next. Oh, wait. Oh, no. Okay, cool. Pick the time. There are NAR stats around this, around the time that you do your open house. There's also NAR stats around when a home should go live on the market. So there are statistics around all of this. I always do it during the same time as other people's open houses, which is usually Saturday, sometime between 11 and 1, maybe 10 to noon. And then Sunday, 1 to 3. Sometimes people do 1 to 3 on Saturdays. Most people have things on Saturdays between 1 and 3. A lot of people in the fall and in the springtime have things on Saturdays between 10 and 1, right? That's when kids have soccer. That's when a lot of football, a lot of those things happen. I always find that Sunday open houses are better. Less things happen on Sunday. There is Sunday night football, so I always try to go in before Sunday night football would start, when it's football season. So you just want to think through those things when you're picking the time. But the bottom line is, it's all of the work that you're doing. People make an open house work if it matters to them. Yeah. Any questions on the timing? Okay. People love these Thursday night happy hours, wine and cheese open houses. They like, I have not found that when I do those, I have a higher return than I would of my normal open house time. Does that make sense? What they do is they make the seller
Do you
feel
feel like
better.
it's a less return though? Thursday nights would be so easy for me. I have kids on and off like every other week. So like Thursday night on the weeks that I don't have kids would be really easy for me to host one.
I think it just depends on your on the house, to be honest, because if your house is going to put somebody in the middle of rush hour traffic and you're doing it from 5 to 7, like your 5 to 6 o'clock hour is pretty much going to be nobody, because they're going to be driving from work, because hopefully the people looking at your open house have jobs and most people work on Thursdays. So that's just what I found, is that you can have a decent number between 6 and 7, but it's the same amount as on the weekend. So, you know, that could work really well for you. If I would probably, depending on, like, if it's a vacant open house, right, like the home is vacant, I would, especially in these summer days where it's being light way later. That's the other thing, is you don't want to be at a house welcoming strangers in the dark. So I would probably wait to start from, I do it from 6 to 8, because it's not getting dark till like 9 o'clock. As my kids love to tell me every single night, why are we going to bed? It's still light out. I'm like, get over it. So I would probably just switch the time a little bit later, so you're not fighting rush hour, especially up in our area. Corvallis, it can be bad too, especially if somebody's going from like Corvallis to Albany and Highway 34 and Highway 20 are backed up, or one of them shut down, which keeps happening for some reason. And then it's like 45 minutes to get over the bridge, right? So it just depends on your timing. I find that most of those, so I don't know. You're just gonna have to play with it. If it works best for your timing, do it. See how it does.
I wouldn't say that it works best. I'm just like, oh, that's a great way to add something in. Like, I'm kind of like where you said you moved up here and you don't have a network. I do not have a network up here. I'm a Californian. I moved to Albany 6 years ago. I was there for 2 years. I moved to Eugene for 3 years, and I just moved in with my fiance and Tigard. And so it's like, I don't really have like my whole network is like social media across the states. It's not like.
Hold on, you guys. I have to blow my nose. I'm so sorry. And I can't, I kid myself.
I think it's just the market right now.
Yeah.
What do you think more agents will be hosting more to like bring in the buyers?
Well, I even reach out to them individually,
Oh, yeah.
and I don't get a response. So, that's been my biggest
Okay.
challenge.
Just trying to get one.
Yeah, I think you just play with it. I found that, and that's where I'm like, I don't really do open houses on Saturdays anymore, because I feel like the amount of return I get on a Saturday, it's 10 times better to get it on a Sunday. Now, if I'm doing both days, which I just can't do with my kids, then I'm going to do both. I'm going to do Saturday and Sunday if I'm doing like 2 in a weekend. Otherwise, if I have to pick one time to do an open house, I'm going to pick Sunday, and I'm going to pick Sunday afternoon from 1 to 3, sometimes 2 to 4.
I'll be back shortly.
Okay. But you can play with it and figure out what works best for you. Try it. Why not? Especially if you're not crazy busy, you can take those 2 hours to lead generate. If nobody shows up, you just make phone calls. Come with a list prepared. Okay. All right, prepare your stats. this is like so important. I would say of all of the things you're doing, like your time, whatever, people, whatever, picking the house, okay, preparing your stats so when they walk in the door, they know that you are the professional and you know what you're talking about. Hands down, I think is the number one most important thing you can do as an agent. Because people in general, we're a judging type of people. It doesn't matter if those judgments are kind or are nice or rude, right? Like a judgment is like you have nice hair or you have a cool hat or whatever it is, right? Also a judgment can be you're young or you're old or you're not wearing shoes, right? Like whatever the judgment is, they have something attached to it. So you want, when you start speaking to that person, you want to be the professional. So things that you can know, you should always know days on market for the home. You should know average days on market for the neighborhood. So then you can compare it to that home. You should know average, what percentage homes are selling for. Are they selling at 107%? So, right? Are they selling for 97% of ask price? You should know, on average, if price reductions are happening before they sell. So is it one price reduction? Is it two price reductions on average for the area? Those are the stats that I care most about. What else? If you can text your lender that morning or ask them to send you an email with what are current interest rates for, what would I expect for current interest rates for a qualified buyer with a decent, I would just send them a stat. Like if somebody has a 625 credit score, makes a decent income, what kind of interest rate should I expect from them? And they'll usually say, this percentage. And then you can say, well, I don't know what your interest rate would be, but on average, I asked my lender and he said, at a decent income, 625, they're going to have a 6% interest rate, whatever it is. And then people are able to get an idea. Utilize things like, for your stats, utilize things like the Tycor app. I think is it called Tycor One? Do you guys have that? Or whatever. Utilize. Yeah, so then you can sit there and you can use their thing, and if they're like, I just don't think I can afford this, then we can have a whole conversation around like, well, what do you want your monthly payment to be? And they're like, well, right now we're renting and we're paying about $2,500 a month. Okay, so is that comfortable for you? Yeah, it's comfortable. I could probably go up to $2,700 if we own it, but blah, blah, blah. Awesome. So let's do some math. Let's see. Okay, so you could probably afford a home around this price if what you're telling me is accurate. Now I can get you some lender's information to actually have that real conversation, because I'm not a lender. I'm just using a little nifty app here to show you that only realtors have access to. And I'm very specific to say things like that only realtors have access to, right? Because I don't want them to think that they can go find this information on their own, because I am the source of information for them. Can they go find it on their own? Yeah, they totally can. But if they were the kind of people to go find it on their own, they already would have. And so I have, which if you guys don't have this, I like highly recommend it. It took me way too long in my career to do this. I have a document in my folders called special terms and special emails. So then when I go to send an email, like I'm going to try to show it to you. That's why I'm pulling it up. Like my lender's email from the open house, I can send them this email. Let's see here. I'll show you what it looks like, if you guys can see it through here. Well, this is taking too long. And this is why we don't do this in front of people and we say, hey, I'm going to get that information for you. Why don't you go? Why don't you go check out the house right now while I find it? Yeah, where the heck is this? So I have one already saved, so then I can just copy and paste in my phone, or from my phone, from my Google. Here we go. Okay. Let's see if I can show you this because I can't. Is it coming up or is it all white?
It's all white.
Okay, bummer. So it's just pretty much saying like, here's my 4 lenders I recommend. The bottom one is Keller Mortgage. And here's a link to apply for that mortgage. Jordan Keck is on there with his cell phone, the company he works for, and his email address. I have 2 other lenders on there as well. And it says, here's some great lenders that I have worked with and would recommend getting in touch with. I would also check with your bank/credit union, as sometimes you can get a discount on your rate by being a member. And I share with them that the federal government actually wants you to shop around for a lender. I verbally share this with them. The federal government actually wants you to shop around for a lender. So you can have 4 lenders pull your credit within a 14-day period and it only be 1 ding on your credit. That way you don't feel stuck with one that pulls your credit. And I explained to them that it's good to shop around for a lender. And then say, do you want me to recommend a couple that I work with? And I send that information over. Another way that I captured their email, because I only send it over email, because I got their phone number at the beginning, right? So that's another stat is I try to get the percentage. This is a great time. If you have a lender working with you, that you say, do you want to host an open house with me? And they can be there. They can help you capture information. Sometimes they'll do giveaways with you. Yeah, okay. Any questions on stats? Cool. Come on, computer. Okay. Be safe. This is very real. It happens to a very small percentage, but be safe. If you don't utilize Find My Friends or something like that, now is the time to get that and have some trusted people on it. Now, obviously, I'm married to another real estate agent, so he always knows where I'm at. And so my husband and I both have Find My Friends, and so he can check in on where I'm at. And if I'm somewhere longer than I should be, both in showings and open houses, like he's like, hey, I haven't heard from you. I need to hear from you. Also, positioning, the way that you position yourself in the house, you make sure that that back door is always unlocked and that that front door is always unlocked. So that way you can be between 2 doors and you can exit. I've only had to use that once. And it was scary. It says to park on the street. I actually, like, unless somebody's blocking you, if that's why, I park in the driveway on the far side so I can get out faster. But when I was in the situation, so pretty much I was standing in an open house by myself alone in Hillsboro. A guy walks in very aggressively. I made a rookie mistake. It was a vacant house and I sat on the ground. Don't do that. Bring a chair with you. I always have a folding chair in my car. I also have a friend who has these like really cool, they're like camping chairs, I think. They're not like camping chairs. They're like camping stools and they're taller. They're backpacking, that's what it is. And she pulls the backpacking one out so that it's easy to get up and off of it really fast. So guy walks in, he towers over me because I could not get up that fast. I just wasn't the quick, and the only question he asked me was like, are you alone right now? And I could not think of anything to say except like, why is that important to you? Because scripting is in my brain. And as he's like approaching me, I'm standing up and I am backing my way out and I'm pulling out my phone and I'm calling 911 because it was, I just didn't feel safe. And by the grace of God, another couple walked in probably 60 seconds later. And he kept repeating the question over and over again. Are you alone? Are you alone? Are you alone? That's scary. Called 911. I always have my phone on me in my open house. I don't use my phone for music. It is in my brain. It is a safety thing to have your phone on you. Some people say it like creates divide in the conversation you're having. I don't care. It is. If I had to wait to find my phone, that could have gone differently, and it was unsafe. It ended up these people walked in saving me. I was like exiting the back door while calling 911, and the people immediately were like, it was like a young couple, and they were like, not sure what was happening. This guy bolted through the back door, jumped a fence, and ran off. And so like that was scary. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm changing all of the safety things that I'm doing on these open houses. The police came. They did. I gave them a full description. They said they know exactly who he is. He is not a safe man. If I see him again. And then the police stayed around the corner for the rest of the open house. So make sure you have an entrance and an exit, and that you're putting yourself near one at all times. If you're really nervous, like that was scary, but I'm still okay being by myself. I always have something of protection on me while I am at an open house. I really do think one of the big ones is I always have my phone in my hand. And I just think it's a safety precaution. So yeah, turn on lights. I always stay on the main level. Don't go upstairs with people. Unless you're there with a second person, don't go upstairs. I just don't think it's a safe choice.
Bethany?
Yeah.
I just had a weird thing happen from an open house not too long ago where, in this case, the seller has one of those Ring cameras in the house. So anytime there's a showing, anytime something's going on, she can watch what's going on from where she's at. And
Yeah, I love that.
a mom and 2 kids showed up for the open house. And within seconds, I get this text, "That's my crazy sister. Get her out of there." And so it was, by the way, she acted completely sane, and everything she said was completely like an interested buyer. So anyway, it was just very strange. And so I didn't exactly throw her out, but I just sort of followed them everywhere they went, because I thought, oh, if it's the sister, they might be looking for something to take. And so, yeah, that was a weird situation, but it's like the seller came and parked close, to basically see that they went out. And it wasn't like I felt in danger or anything. It's just I hadn't thought of that one before.
Yeah, I actually had one like that too, where it was like a crazy uncle or something like that. I'm trying to remember because it was like 8 years ago. And the change of the Ring doorbell has like really affected open houses, because your sellers a lot of the time are literally sitting there watching. And it like, I don't know, I think it's kind of weird, but I also understand where they're coming from. In those instances, there's not a lot you can do. You just got to go with your gut. It's like, if I feel unsafe, I'm going to ask somebody to leave. And I've done that before. There was a guy that came drunk one time, and I was like, excuse me, sir, like, this is somebody's home. Like, they live here. This is a really big asset for them, and I'm really not comfortable with you being here. And they left. They threw a fit at me and they left. And it was like, okay. And like I do look up whatever the non-emergency number is in the area, because like for that guy, he wasn't super aggressive, but it was like, I probably wouldn't call 911 and be like, this is an emergency, you need to get over here right now. But I'd be like, hey, there's a guy at my open house. This is not comfortable. Yeah. So, yeah, and that's a weird one, because it's like, you're opening up your home to the public. And so technically, like, your sister or whatever, cousin or aunt or whatever it was, can kind of be there as long as she's following all the rules. There's not really a reason necessarily, except it's your home. So she could come back and kick her out. But then I don't know, that just creates really weird dynamics. Because if they're making other people feel unsafe. But I've also had, when I was earlier in the business, and I did a lot in downtown Portland. I don't do any open houses in downtown Portland anymore. My friends and I would find 2 open houses to do in the same weekend, and we do them together. And I would have one and she would have one, and we just share sitting at them with each other. And so it might have been that we did both of them on Saturday, and they were in the same neighborhood if we could pull that off, which didn't always happen. And sometimes it would be that she would do one on Saturday and mine would be on Sunday, but I would do if mine was Saturday, I would do all the door knocking, all of the all of this stuff to prepare for it. And she would just physically be another body there. And then I do the same for her on her Sunday one. So that worked out really well as well. You can have a lender, like I said. Sometimes home warranty people will do it. It just depends how hungry they are for business at the time, honestly. But what I like to do, and I don't think it necessarily talked about this. Oh wait, no, we're getting there. Just kidding. Okay. All right, 2 ahas. Anyone have anything?
I like the information about what to know about the area. I think that's really helpful, and just like what to research before doing an open house.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. And so having a list of, like, these are good things to know is helpful.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. Okay, prospect and prepare. I'm gonna make sure I am on with your guys's. We did open house safety, prospect and prepare. Perfect. Okay. So here is I'll go through what they say. This is what I do. I call the neighborhood. I pay for circle prospecting. So if you don't pay for circle prospecting, it's not as easy to just circle prospect for an open house. So if a home goes on the market, it's going to talk about like Monday, what to do Monday, what to do Tuesday, what to do Wednesday, what to do Thursday, what to do Friday, Saturday. Typically, unless it's been on the market already, that home's already on the market, that doesn't work in our market because a lot of homes go on the market Wednesdays and Thursdays, right? You don't often have a home coming on the market. I mean, you sometimes do, but they're not as common. More homes come on the market Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I do like a smaller version of what they say. But I still hit all of the parts. So the day that the home comes on the market, I circle prospect. And if you don't know what circle prospecting is, it's like, here's your address, and I'm going to call in a 2-mile radius. I'm going to pull all the numbers in a 2-mile radius around it. Now, Corinne might know the answer to this. I don't remember. I think the title company can pull that for you and you can manually call, right? Okay. I have like a program that does it, so I cannot remember, but I think you can say, hey, I want to circle prospect around 123 Main Street, and email your preferred title company and they'll pull you a list. The day the home goes on the market, I'm going to call and say, hey, did you see that 123 Main Street came on the market? We're having an open house on Saturday. Would love to see you there. Also, do you know anyone who is looking to become your neighbor? Like looking to buy into your neighborhood right now? I try to keep it super casual. I am not trying to sound like I'm scripted on the phone. And they're usually like, oh, no, I don't know anyone looking. Great. Thanks for thinking about that. Hope to see you on Saturday. Bye. I'm like looking for 25-second conversations here to invite them to the open house unless they open the door, right? I'm not gonna go into, do you know anyone else looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? Because that's not my intent right now. My intent is this home's on the market, come to my open house. And then if you know somebody, who do you know, right? Like I'm asking for this home. Okay, so I'm gonna call. My goal is to call about 100 numbers. But I might not get that. It just depends on what my list brings up. Okay, so that's the day the home goes on the market. The Friday before the open house, I'm gonna door knock and I'm gonna say, here's my home. I'm gonna go 20 houses to the left, 20 houses to the right, and 20 houses across the street. 60 homes I'm gonna knock. I will leave a flyer. This is where I do print stuff. I will leave a flyer for the open house. I do really small flyers because I really do hate paper. I'm just like not a paper person. I do small flyers with the home, the time of the open house, no data about the open house except for the address. So I don't say like listed at 600,000 or listed for 325 or anything like that. I just say like open house, new on market, Saturday, 1 to 3, and then all the required brokerage information and mine, and then if it's not my listing, the required listing information. And I'm gonna knock those 60 homes. And then on the morning of the open house, I am going to do signs. I used to do a whole spread. I used to have like
I'm here.
I used to get donuts or bagels or something. I'm gluten-free, so something gluten-free, and waters and juice boxes for kids. The only ones I still do are waters and juice boxes because they have a very high shelf life, and I can just put them out and have them sitting there while, you know, like it's pretty easy. I have like an open house bag, set them out, and then I have a 1-page printed, and it's in like do I have it sitting here? It's in like one of those stands that's like clear that makes it stand up that you can get from like an office store. About some information. It's not usually a flyer about the home. It's usually a flyer about home buying with my information on it. And then if somebody's like, oh, do you have a copy of that? Yeah, I can totally email that to you. Right. Usually set that up either on the kitchen table or on the kitchen counter. You can totally do donuts. You can totally do stuff like that. The biggest win I find for what you have is water and something for a child, because people without kids don't care about the kids stuff, and they don't even notice it really. People with kids really appreciate you thinking about, hey, I'm going to give your child a juice box, or offer mom and dad. Don't ever offer to the kid, offer to mom and dad. The juice box. And then that kid is now all of a sudden entertained while mom and dad get a look at the house. It tends to be a big win. So okay. Open house signs. You have to look at city ordinances. Most cities now only allow you to put them out the morning of. I'm pretty sure Albany is the morning of. I don't remember what Corvallis is, but I would guess, because if Albany is the morning of, that Corvallis is the morning of too. Directional signs, that's different, right? The directional, the T-post with the corrugated plastic. I'm talking about the heavy wooden, like A-frame type signs. I put up as many as I can. My goal is usually to put up 5, and then I ordered a flag for my open house. One of the best purchases I think I've made. The flag makes a huge difference. If you can't afford a branded flag right now, the other thing that I have seen that I have said, like, if I couldn't afford a flag right now, because they're not cheap. It's like, I mean, they're not crazy expensive. It's like $80. But is a okay, you know those car dealership ones that like go up? Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like
Two arm guys.
Yeah, and they like wave in the air, and they're like blow ups. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
You can get them on Amazon for fairly cheap. So you just bring an extension cord, plug it in, put that with your sign, because then people are like, oh, this is where I'm going. I used to do balloons. Because I had the flag, I've actually saved myself a bunch of money, because balloons end up getting expensive over time. If you don't have the money for either of those, start with balloons. Start with balloons, because they're inexpensive one-time use. I actually would get a little bit more expensive ones from the Dollar Tree. So they're $1.25 a balloon. And I would get the star balloons, because that's what they regularly have. They have white, blue, and I think red. I think it's like the American flag colors. And I would usually pick white and red, because Keller Williams colors. And I would get them on Friday and use them Saturday, Sunday. And then if there was a family, when I was leaving the open house, I'd offer them, the kids, the balloons. Yeah, so, but anything that's going to be big and bright and attract attention makes people think your open house is a big deal. If you don't have that, people are like, can I walk in? Is this okay? Like, hi, like, it's a little bit weird. And it's not always the best thing to leave that door propped open. I like to leave the door propped open as much as I can. And I tell the sellers, I'm going to leave it propped open. It's not the best for your AC, I know, but it makes buyers more comfortable to walk in the front door. And if they're like, oh, I'd really not like you to do that. Okay, that's fine. I will close the door and I'm sitting watching out a window for when somebody walks up, and then I prop it open in that moment. Okay. A great question when you're door knocking is asking them, like, what is it that you love about this neighborhood that I could tell potential buyers? So when you're asking the neighbors, when you're inviting them to the open house. Okay. Any questions on that? All right, the difference between big and really big is how you manage your time and focus. Whew, what do we think that means?
Oh, because ultimately at the end of the day, a lot of times what separates people who do really well and people who do really great is how much time they're not wasting.
100%.
And how they're investing it.
Yeah. And I think like also what you're putting your energy into, right? So what is, you can manage things really well, but if it's not, you're not managing the right things, are you going to be able to go really big? Probably not. Like I was making the mistake of managing my time by focusing on the food I had at the open house and not focusing on having 5 to 7 signs out. And once I shifted my focus to that, my credibility and the number of people through the open house was higher. And so sometimes it's about what you're focusing on, but that's exactly it, Michael. Okay. Whoop. Okay. Here we are. This is like not matching this right now. Okay, so this is their version of what you should be doing. I told you my version. What I didn't add in was like posting online. If you're in your area, if you're not in your local Facebook groups, like you need to get on those pronto. And then check you don't want to get banned from the Facebook group, but check the rules of it. Like, can I post things on? Sometimes it's like you can only post business posts on these days, XYZ. So check those and see like, okay, I'm having it in downtown Albany. I'm having an open house and the Albany page only lets me post on Friday morning. So, okay, I'm going to schedule a post to post about the open house on Friday morning. I don't do any printed stuff. This is mostly for like your own, like install yard sign. Like I'm like, what it's talking about is like a yard hanger. You can ask the listing agent if you're not the listing agent, like, do you have a yard hanger showing that the home is going to be open on Saturday from 11 to 1, and see if they can. If they don't, Art Plus, I don't know if you guys have ever worked with Art Plus, they'll do a sign for you, like a sign writer for $10. Super cheap. They're in Albany. And you can get one made if you want. Once you have like 10 of them, and I just waited to make them until I needed them. Once you have like 10 of them, it's like, I always do my open houses Saturday or Sunday from these 2 times. And so it's like, I have 2 of each and I'm good to go because sometimes they get ruined. Right. And that's $40. And then I started doing some other ones like a Thursday night open house or this, or I had some random weird time. So I ended up with like 10 total and would just drop them at a house and put them on. But always ask the listing agent first because sometimes they just have them. Okay. Any questions about this weekly schedule or what I do? Okay. But you see how what I do is just like a condensed version. Like it's all the same item. It's just fitting that within what our market actually looks like. Okay. What clients that could know? Community and neighborhood information, relocation information, first-time buyer specifics, and mortgage information. We talked through mortgage. First-time buyer specifics, if they're a first-time home buyer, those I think are the easiest to convert to an appointment because I always say like, oh, wow, that's super exciting. I'm super passionate about first-time home buyers, just in general. Like that is my favorite, I think my favorite client to work with because I love seeing people get into home ownership and start building that equity for their families. And so that kind of comes out when I'm talking to them and I'm able to say like, man, the best thing that you can do for yourself is knowledge. And so if we can sit down and talk for about an hour about what's happening in the market, what you can expect in the whole home buying process, that's really going to help you be a better and more prepared buyer and get what you actually want. And so I don't really have an issue setting those appointments. And a lot of the time with these first time home buyers, I'm able to set an appointment while I'm standing in, if they're not working with an agent, while I'm standing in the open house. And so I'm able to say to them like, hey, let's just set up a time right now. What's your guys' schedule look like? And they're like, oh, well, we work these days. I know Keller Williams teaches like, are you available Wednesday at 4 or Thursday at 5? You know, I don't do that when I'm at an open house because I don't know these people well enough to offer a time that actually would be an appropriate time for their schedule. And so they'll say, well, I'm a nurse, I'm off on Tuesdays and he's off usually by 4 o'clock on Tuesdays. I'm like, awesome. Do you guys want to meet this Tuesday or the following Tuesday? That's when I offer an option. So I'm just trying to get some information around that. I don't run into a lot of relocation information. I mean, unless they're coming down and they've like never been in Corvallis or they've never been in Newburgh and they're like, we just drove up here to look for, to look at open houses and see if we want to, or like we're moving here for work or something like that. I'm going to give them a bunch of information about the town. I actually had one a couple months ago where they literally drove in, they're moving to Newburgh from California and they just drove in and drove by my signs and we're like, let's stop and see what the housing market looks like. I actually have a meeting with them next week. But they, because I have kept following up because they weren't ready to buy right then. And they said, we're going to live in the area for about 6 months to decide which part we want to live in. Do we want to actually live in Newburgh or Sherwood or McMinnville? Anyways. And so all of that relocation information for me has always been like, what kind of grocery stores do we have around us? What kind of, like you never really know what's important to them until they say it, right? And so if you know your town, you usually have enough information. Like I know that there's a Fred Meyer. I know that there's like 6 coffee shops in town. I know that, you know, that kind of stuff. And then, you know, like, oh, well, I can get you connected with the Chamber of Commerce. Like, here are some things that we have going on. You know, Corvallis has a fall festival. It's super fun. A lot of people love to go to that. We have, you know, like whatever it is, just some fun facts about the town. And then community and neighborhood information. Usually people want to know the stats. Sometimes they like to know like, well, what do people in this area do for fun? Or what kind of people live in the neighborhood? I am very weary to answer that question. So if you're weary to answer it like I am, I usually say, well, what do you mean by that? Or what's important to you about that? Because sometimes what they're meaning is, well, are there kids in the neighborhood? And you're like, oh, okay, you have kids, great. I can see where that's important. You know, there seems to be, when I was driving through the neighborhood, there were a lot of bikes out. There was like a basketball hoop on the street, you know, XYZ. But I'm not going to answer demographic questions because that's like, you're getting into the line of fair housing there. So you want to be careful. Okay. Did I just go back? No. Okay, I went forward. Okay, prospect. You want to build trust and rapport. You're trying to get these people to know, like, and trust you in a very short period of time. You want to provide value. So you want to you want to know your stats. You want to know your stuff. You want to know they want to know when you open your mouth that the words coming out of your mouth are actually valuable to them and they should stay and listen. And you want to capture their information. We already talked through all of that. Greet everyone as they come in the door. I'm always like, hey, how's it going? And then I try to get their energy level and match it. So if they're like talking slow and they're like, ah, it's been a good day, I'm going to lower my voice and be like, cool, I'm so happy about that. Good. I'm a fairly positive person, so I'm always going to stay positive. I'm not going to drop into somebody's Eeyore attitude, but I will mirror and match their tone and I will mirror and match their energy level with it. And if there's something like, like especially up here, if somebody's wearing beaver gear, I'm like, go Beavs. And they're like, oh, did you go to Oregon State? And I'm like, yeah, totally did. And they're like, I was like, did you? And they're like, no, I just like the Beavers. Cool. Love that. Try to find something to relate with them on. Engage in conversation. We've talked through conversation starters and all of that. Okay. Providing value. Know your team stats. I don't find this super important. I can honestly say, I think maybe 1 or 2 times people have said, well, how many homes have you sold? And I have responded with, well, what's important to you about that? I'm like, I genuinely don't know off the top of my head how many homes I've sold. I can tell you how many I have in escrow right now. And usually what they really mean by that question is like, are you actually a professional? Do you know what you're talking about? And if I can keep talking, I don't actually have to answer that question. I can show them through my knowledge that I am a professional. Knowing your market stats, we've talked about that. Understanding personality types. You want to mirror and match everyone. You want to be able to match their level of energy and their level of like, are they a slow talker? Are they a fast talker? Are they just trying to like, sometimes it's like they're, like I was saying, they kind of put up a wall when they walk in and then they chill out because they get more comfortable and they realize you're not trying to just sell them this house and you're not sitting here trying to sell, like you have to buy this home. No, I'm just trying to figure out what the best way I could help you would be. And sometimes they'll say that, like, they'll be like, yeah, I wasn't interested. And I said, okay, what wasn't interesting about the house, or what are you looking for? And they'll be like, I don't really want to share that. And I said, no problem. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way that I can help you, but it seems like you're not looking for help. And a lot of the times they're kind of taken aback by that. And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, I am a professional real estate agent and I share like what I do with my buyers is I sit down and I talk them through what's happening in the market and the entire home buying process. And then I actually have a large questionnaire that we go through so that you're not wasting your time looking at homes that don't fit your needs. And you seem like the kind of guy or woman, you seem like the kind of person, let's use that term. You seem like the kind of person who doesn't like to waste their time. So I feel like that could be beneficial to you, but if you're not looking for help, totally understand. I don't need to press that. And a lot of the times those personality types are like, well, I mean, that would be interesting to me. Yeah, I don't like to waste my time. Great. Let's talk. Let's set up a time. Okay. Have something to offer visitors. I offer them all the information I give them. I don't feel the need to have something printed for them there. I will email it to them. You are welcome to print things. When I was earlier on in my real estate career, I had so much printed material with my face all over it. I just don't do that anymore. You're welcome to. It's a preferential thing. It doesn't, I think there's arguments both ways where it's like, no, I want my flyer in the car with my face on it so then they remember me. Yes, absolutely. I don't even have business cards anymore. Like that's how anti-paper I am. But I do send a digital business card to people. Okay. Make sure when you're like if you're struggling to ask questions using the 4 questions, who, what, when, or where, when, and why. Remember, you're here to get the appointments or to get the leads. Ask for it. And if you're like me, who doesn't like hard close, because I don't like a hard close, come up with some form of a sentence or a dialogue that's like, what I typically do with my buyers is XYZ. Is that something you'd be interested in? And for me, that works really well. I do not have a problem closing on those items. Okay, and then pursue. You have to follow up. This is the most important thing, is following up. If you told them you're not going to call them, don't even add them to your database. Just scratch out that name. Okay. But I typically will take the hour afterward. I always look up where the nearest coffee shop is, go sit down after I pick up all my signs, and I look at all the promises I wrote down that I made to people. So if I made promises to people, I'm going to fulfill those promises first, and then I'm going to call. And if I didn't hit my 10 contacts, my 10 real estate conversations, I'm going to do those first, and then I'm going to follow up. It typically takes me an hour to do this portion. So yeah. Okay, that's it. What questions do you have? We have a minute technically, so where are you at?
think I feel a little bit more confident about the whole thing.
Okay, good. Love that.
Just knowing, I guess, what to do. Like I felt like the past couple ones that I posted, I was kind of like just there, answer any questions if they have any. Hopefully I know them. Now I feel like I have a little bit more information to go off of and just how I can be more involved.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Michael, do you have anything?
No, it's some really good information. Like I said, I particularly like some of the things you say to people.
Yeah, the scripts or the dialogue. Sorry.
Scripts, that one, it's the same thing.
Very natural.
So you guys have this, I think it's in your Ignite student thing, which is preparing for an open house. So you guys can sit down and that's like the next thing you're supposed to do is go through and make your preparation and what it is that you would actually do, what you need to do, all of that, and kind of come up with your own, like, this is what kind of fits who I am, while also hitting all of those pieces, right? So you're wanting to make calls around the area, you're wanting to do social media online, you're wanting to do door knocking, you're wanting to make sure you have signs, and you're wanting to have your market stats and stuff. So those can look however you want them to. You just want to make sure you're hitting all of those important aspects. Yeah, that's all I have for you guys. If you have any other questions for me, feel free to reach out. My email is Bethany Olson, BethanyOlson@kw.com. I will be honest, I don't monitor my email, but my admin does, and she texts me whatever the email is. So if you email me, I might not get back right away. You're always welcome to text me. My number is 541-223-8077. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say, if you have any referrals or anyone looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate up in the Portland metro area, I'd love to be your contact. So.
Hey, Bethany, I just wanted to say thank you and also remind everybody that we have Winning Wednesday starting right after Ignite is over. So if anyone wants to join us for Winning Wednesday, I'm going to start that as soon as we're done here.
Awesome, I'm done. So have a great time, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bethany.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Corinne, I could not hang up on my own.